Hello, friends. On this week's episode of the Forward Think Tank, I sit down with one of my dear friends, the founder of Om Life Wellness, Anand Sukhadia. He has been a friend for years and is one of those forward thinkers in wellness and technology and a thought leader in this community in Jersey City. His space has brought so much healing and support to me during this year. I have visited Om Life over the course of the last 7 years of its existence. I've seen the transformation that's taken place, and he recently celebrated 7 years in business. This turned into an organic, beautiful conversation. Him and I are aligned on a lot of things in terms of health, so it was an honor to sit down with him. Anand is the founder of Om Life Wellness, which is a modern recovery spa and lifestyle brand here in Jersey City, dedicated to fostering mind, body, and spirit health through cutting-edge technologies and ancient healing practices such as zero gravity flotation therapy, cold plunging, infrared sauna, breath work, massage, and also the future of energetic healing, which I was so excited to talk to him about, the Energy Enhancement System. You've seen it all over my Instagram. I go there weekly. With a background deeply influenced by a family of medical doctors and holistic healers, Anand's passion is rooted in a lifelong commitment to self-development. He is also the host of the Limitless One Podcast, where he shares transformational conversations with thought leaders, visionaries, and change makers, inspiring listeners to unlock their highest potential. Anand's journey from global travels and profound spiritual awakenings to building a thriving wellness sanctuary embodies his mission to live with purpose, spread eternal bliss, and empower others to create a limitless life. Anand has gone through a lot of life experiences, which he talks about in this episode, which kind of cracked him open and allowed him to step into his power and create this vision he had for many years and everything involved in that process. So between being a business owner, husband, now being a father to a beautiful baby boy, he has a lot on his plate, but he's always somebody who is continuing to do the research to understand what's happening in the health and wellness trends. And he continues to bring that to the forefront at Om Life, which creates a space of healing and transformation for all of us who are honored to be able to witness. Not only that, but we go a bit deeper talking about spiritual transformation. He is somebody who I think walks his talk, and I've seen him over the years do the work. He has been to countless Joe Dispenza events, which he actually now goes to with his wife, which is something I would love to experience. And we certainly talk about that. We're manifesting that I will get there in 2025. Thank you for that. But it turned into a beautiful conversation and it took its own shape. If you are somebody who is on your own spiritual journey, you're looking to foster better habits mentally, or maybe you have this idea that you're looking to bring to life, to get out of a corporate job, you're looking to make a move and truly fulfill your purpose, I encourage you to listen. I think he has so much wisdom to share, and I hope you enjoy our very fluid, friendly, very heartfelt conversation. Thank you, Anand, for being part of this podcast journey. I love you. Please enjoy this episode. You can find Anand through his website, www.anand.life, also at Om Life, www.om.life. And then also the Energy Enhancement System, which he really, of course, did such a better job than I do at explaining what's happening and why it is a healing mechanism for the body. You can also check out more about that at www.scalarhealth. And I will link all of that in the show notes. You are in for a very enjoyable, informative, inspiring episode. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Forward Think Tank podcast, a place for sharing stories of hope, inspiration, and wisdom on all things holistic health. I'm your host, Jamie Mazza, a holistic health coach and lifelong dancer. After being diagnosed with a rare thymic tumor and autoimmune disease, I am on a mission to fully, radically heal. Tune in as I share stories from my personal healing journey, interviews with forward thinkers and healers in the wellness industry, and stories from incredible humans who have gone through their own health challenges and continue to move forward in hope. Thanks for tuning in. So grateful you're here. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Forward Think Tank podcast. I am back today with a very special guest, wonderful friend of mine, Anand Sukhadia, the founder of Om Life Wellness. I am so thrilled to have you here today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
We can just, let's dive right in because I feel like we've got some juicy questions. I was so excited to get you on here to talk about the energy enhancement system because every time I post about it, I get a million questions like, what is this technology? What is it doing for you? This looks so cool. So I figured who better to speak to it? I just know how it feels in my body and it feels so amazing. But you have so many great things going on at Om Life. And you also are just an incredible supportive friend to me. I feel like you have so much wisdom and knowledge to share. I would love for you to tell me what inspired you to create the vision and what now exists as Om Life, because I know there's a really interesting story. What led you to that kind of aha awakening moment? Let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive right in. I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me on. It's rare to get to spend this amount of time together. You got a lot going on. I got a lot going on. So I'm very excited. You're interviewing me first, and then I get to interview you. So a couple of hours with a dear friend is, talking life and all things in between is a real blessing. And I'm so grateful to have you as a friend. That's the first thing I want to say.
Thank you.
But let's jump in. So Om Life, wow. Okay, so we just celebrated our 7th year anniversary on Saturday, and it hit me because I didn't even think about it. And it went by so fast. And you and I connected through Om Life and through Busy Bee, just through some events and everything we were doing. And so you got to see the very beginning of when we opened and changing so many things. And I would say let's go all the way back to childhood, because for some reason I always knew I came from a family of doctors. So my parents are doctors. And then my sister ended up being a Ayurvedic doctor. So completely on the other side is the holistic ancient Indian wisdom of holistic medicine and massage therapy and detoxification and herbology and plant medicine and all these kind of things. So I got to see the whole spectrum of where health was, right? It's the reactive and then the proactive side of it, right? So we live in a world where we're accumulating so many toxins. To do like a spring cleaning on the body is just as important as you would clean your house, right? If you don't clean your house, it becomes really dirty and toxic, and there's crap everywhere, right? If we're not doing that with our bodies and doing a constant, maintenance and refueling of it all the time, then there's things that can not be optimal, let's say. So ever since I was young, I always knew in the back of my mind, I wanted to open up a holistic wellness center that featured the best in holistic modalities. I didn't have an idea of what that would look like. I just knew that I wanted to get the best of everything, bring it in one place. And then I've always been very spiritually inclined into self-development, into working out, into recovery, into mental hacks, and figuring out how can I live the most optimal life, but also the most efficient life. So combining all these things, all my interests, whether it's health, fitness, recovery, stress relief, meditation, yoga, spirituality, how do I make a business out of all of these things? Because I tried other things in the past and I was just doing them for, going through the motions, trying to make money and support myself. And there was a very key missing element to my life, which was fulfillment. And I think that when we're doing things just for the sake of doing them and not doing it from a state of like, what is your burning desire? What is your passion that fulfills you? And I decided, okay, I want to do something like this. And I thought about it for a long time, just like we all do. We have these dreams and we figure out in our mind, we create these stories of why we can't do it. Once I have the money, once I have the team in place, once I have all my ducks in a row, that's when I'll be able to do it. But the same comes to any decision in life, is like, unless you take direct action, it's not going to just magically appear. The universe is not going to work with you. That's not the deal you have with it. So the universe will reward you once you start taking action, moving towards your goals, right? And it'll help you, it'll assist you, it'll bring the people that will help you in that journey. So I kept putting it off, and I think that also plays to the fact that the ego will lie to you and make up any story that it can to keep you inside of that little box that we've created for ourselves, right? And I call it comfortable misery. And comfortable misery is we created this box that we can't ever leave because we're comfortable in this shithole. That's an extreme end of the a term for it.
I was in comfortable misery for years, so yes. Relate so much.
Absolutely. So, and sometimes to people's comfortable misery look good on the outside, but is it really the most fulfilling thing? This is a time when I was doing self-development and I was very empowered and I'm like, go, go, go. But again, the ego, right? And the subconscious for some reason wasn't letting me take the next step. I had an opportunity to either continue self-development, which is great. And I still do that and I love it. But for some reason that action wasn't clicking. And then I could obviously do therapy if I wanted to, which, I've only done a couple sessions of therapy. It really didn't do anything for me. I always think that there's a more efficient way of doing it, and nothing against therapy or anything like that. But I was like, okay, how do I get into the subconscious? How do I crack that egg of the subconscious to see what's inside? Because it's kind of locked in within yourself, and you just don't know what you don't know. You consciously think and you could create the stories, but who are you truly without all the filters you've created for yourself and around the world? So psychedelics was one thing that came up as an opportunity, and specifically ayahuasca. And ayahuasca it's a plant medicine from the Brazilian rainforest, or Ecuador, Peru, they all share a rainforest. So they figured out how to combine this leaf and a root. They somehow mixed it together and boiled it for 14 hours. And all of a sudden you have an entryway to divine consciousness. That's a whole story in itself on how they figured that out. Apparently, they were doing some medicine with a frog, and a frog told them how to make this brew, because out of 140,000 plants in the Amazon jungle, they were able to find the two that when you put them together, it opens up your pineal gland. All the ancient Eastern civilizations talk about the pineal gland, the third eye, and they know exactly where it was thousands of years ago. And we're just figuring all this stuff out now through science, through Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. And there's so much science on it now that shows us, okay, this is actually what's happening. It's excreting DMT, which is dimethyltryptamine. That's the active ingredient in ayahuasca. You drink this tea, it tastes disgusting, and it's like a shot. And all of a sudden, it takes a little bit of time to kind of set in. And then all of a sudden, the first scene I experienced, I've never done psychedelics prior to that. I've done marijuana a couple of times in high school, and it really didn't call to me. I just stayed away from it. But I tell you, it was the most intense experience of my life. So the first visions I had is that I was in this black space, and it was the universe, and there was nothing there. It was the beginning before everything was created. I was all alone in the universe. It was the most loneliest feeling I've ever experienced.
I just kind of
and
chill.
It was, it was intense. And then I was getting scared because I was like, this is what I signed up for. And then I see this winged goddess start flying towards me. And I don't know.
Beautiful.
There's so many different iterations of this goddess. If you want to call Isis, Atlanteus goddesses. She came up to me and hugged me and put her wings around me. And all of a sudden I went from the loneliest feeling in the world to the most loved feeling I've ever experienced. It's like this divine mother wrapping you up and helping you experience what it is to be truly loved. And that was the biggest extreme. And then from there, that's when the whole roller coaster ride started. And I was like, okay, now we're really into this. And 4 hours experience it was. And I basically had a whole life in review. And the short of it is, it showed me two paths. It showed me myself as an old man on my deathbed. It showed me this path of continuing going on the same path that I was on, which was just going through the motions, not really living from my heart, not doing anything for anyone else. And I was dying alone in a hospital bed by myself. And then it was like, okay, what about if we made some changes and you start living from the heart and living towards your purpose and taking action where it seems like a huge uphill battle. But if you take that choice, that hard one, your whole life will change. And then I saw a vision of myself, glimpses of things that would happen in my life, getting married, having kids, having amazing experiences, travel the world, seeing the most amazing people. And then it showed me at the end of my life, totally happy, smile on my face, my family around me praying as I was leaving this body and going on to the next, that eternal life. And it showed me it's a simple thing. If we start moving towards our purpose and not being in fear, then we can achieve anything that we want to. And I chose that path after I got out of this experience, and so many other realizations about forgiveness and love. But I started the path of Om Life, and that's a very long-winded story about to tell you.
But that's so beautiful. Thank you. I knew a little bit of that, but thank you for giving everyone who's listening to this some background, because I know I can relate to that autopilot life where you're just doing everything that looks good on paper, but you are not fulfilled. And I don't know that everybody in this world feels those big callings, but I think when you do and you suppress them, you're only hurting yourself. So for you to be able to go through that whole experience, have that vision, and then be able to step into it and take action, which takes a lot of courage. I commend you for that, because I see what Om Life is now and what it brings to this community and what it brings to people like me who need that support and healing. It's a truly beautiful atmosphere that you've created. I feel like you're one of those people who's always on on the brink and pulse of what's happening in technology trends and wellness. And so the fact that you were able to take that life-altering experience where it just totally opened your mind and step into that power and that path, I commend you for that. So thank you for sharing that backstory.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. And it, every time I go through like a hardship in the business, or it goes really slow, or COVID, I just go back to that moment of the decision that I made after that experience and how I felt and how strong it was. And that's a point in my life where I can always reflect back on and say, okay, that was the beginning of your new life, right? That was the moment where you decided to step into be the hero of your own life and not live passively or just go with the motions and, all this. It empowered me to like really move forward in life. Opening the business, it was not easy. It took me 2 years to start the business, get the money together. I liquidated all my assets, all my stocks, and I had some real estate, and I liquidated that stuff. And it was a big risk. And every single person, my lawyers, my accountants, even family members, they told me, don't do it. It's like, how are you going to make this money back? The big investment. And to this day, I reflect on it as like, wow, that was a ballsy move. But you know what I tell you, the things that I've gotten in return is everything that I ever wanted. I met my wife through this business, met some of my best friends through this business. I got to travel the world and have these experiences and go see ancient sites and get connected with a really amazing networks of people. And it was the turning point in my life. And
it sounds like
I'm just so grateful.
Outweighed the risk, but
the monetary.
Take that risk. You don't know.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, now just like me stepping back and listening to that story and knowing you along, the handful of years that the business has been opened, and seeing all these wonderful things come into your life, it's really, I can't wait to get more into like the mindset questions with you, because I know that you have done the work, and I too am working on it every day. But I think there are people listening to this podcast that are going to get so much perspective out of your story, to really step in and own your power and listen to that inner wisdom. I would love to spend a little bit of time talking about the energy enhancement system, because I know that's been the biggest enhancement, so to speak, at Om Life. And I know that was a big undertaking of yours. I know that I was in a dark hole when I saw you sharing that it was coming. And I was like, I don't even know what this is, but I need to get in there. So can you tell us a bit about what prompted you to bring that into the experience at Om Life, and what it is and how it can be beneficial? Help us understand that big, beautiful, colorful screen that people are seeing when I step into your space.
Yeah, for sure. Just before we even we've had the Energy Enhancement System for about a year now. And before that, we were maxed out in terms of space at the center. If there's anything I would have done is have a bigger space, because I want to bring in so many more things, but trying to keep it as efficient as possible. But yeah, when I experienced the Energy Enhancement System the first time, I heard about it on a podcast, and I was listening to it. I'm like, this has got to be the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard in my life, because all you have to do is sit in a room and all of a sudden it's going to heal everything, any kind of ailment.
Yeah.
People are coming in with all different types of things. And I was like, all right, let's step outside of the ego, because you think you know everything. Why don't you go experience it and see if this is true, what it would be about. So concurrently, after I saw that podcast, I also got a message from a friend of mine who saw the podcast, and he went to go visit a center, and he's like, dude, you gotta think about bringing this to Om Life. I'm like, yeah, I saw it. Like, first of all, where am I going to put it? And also it's a huge investment. He's like, listen, go visit. Right. So I'm like, what do you got to do? And he's like, all you got to do is just go there and sit and take a nap and just, see how you feel. So, and I laid back in a zero gravity chair, just like the ones we have at Om Life. And within 5 minutes, I fell asleep, and I was in a deep, deep sleep. I went with Kate, my wife, and I woke up, and it was 2 hours later, and I didn't even know what galaxy I was in. I was like, wait a second, what is this? Like 2 hours went by, I didn't even feel anything. And I felt really good. So then they recommend doing a salt bath afterwards. So I did the salt bath that they recommended. It's a detox protocol with sea salt and baking soda and borax and a few other things. So I did that salt bath, and I was like seeing all this stuff come out inside the water. It was like real cloudy. I was like, wait a second, this salt is white. Why would the water be cloudy? It's not like it was the minerals in the salt packet. So I'm like, wow, okay, it's coming out of me. So that night I had an amazing sleep. I woke up so refreshed the next day, and I was like, wow, that was pretty impressive. So I did it a few other times. And then I ended up going to in Michigan in 2023. So sorry, just backtrack a little bit. So there kept being like videos and testimonials I was watching on this all along. And then there was this seminar for the EE system, its energy enhancement system, for prospective owners to go and visit and talk to the inventor and the people that are promoting it. So I went there, and after a few days, I met hundreds of people that all had life-changing experiences using this technology. And I went to a center out Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and that was amazing. And then a couple months later, I went to do an overnight in Boulder, Colorado for somebody that owns a center that I met in Michigan. And I was like, okay, this is happening. I need to bring this into Om Life. So after that, I literally constructed a plan to rearrange a lot of things at Om Life to get that movement to like combination therapies like the sauna and the cold plunge, got rid of my cryotherapy machine, moved the treatment room, and then upstairs that we have is all the energy enhancement system, made room for that. And then it took about 8 months to get the technology installed. So it was a lot of work. And we were literally operating with, instead of having 12 therapies at home, we were operating it with 5 therapies for almost 8 months because we had to make all the changes and the construction and everything. So we were running on empty in terms of like the amount of money that was coming in and everything like that. But I was like, you know what? This is going to change people's lives. So the technology itself, I'll explain what it is we're creating a frequency field inside of the room that these systems are in. But just imagine you have 4 computer towers in each one of the corners of the room. They're all laser calibrated to the center point of the room. So within 100 of an inch, this is why they're precisely tuned to the middle of the room. And if they were even a quarter of an inch off or anything like that, it would throw off a wobble. So imagine you see the electromagnetic energy of the earth. It kind of looks like a toroidal field or an apple shape whenever people see depictions of that, like the magnetic energy coming off the earth. That's what we're creating. We're using scalar waves, which are like Tesla waves that he found that move beyond time and space. So they're 5th dimensional waves, and we're using biophotonic light. So when you look at these screens, you'll see different colors. You'll see some of them moving really fast upwards. Some of them are moving fast downwards. It's kind of looks like Tetris, but it's moving real fast. So this light, this is biophotonic light coming off these screens. And as they collide at the center of the room, they're increasing the voltage of the room. So you're using light photons to increase the voltage. So any environment that our body goes into, your body's going to adapt to that environment. So when you're in this environment, we're creating multiple frequencies, one of them being the Schumann resonance, which is the heartbeat of the earth, 7.83 hertz. So when you go into nature or anything like that, you feel so relaxed. Into the beach, you put your feet in the sand, grounding, whatever you want to, term you want to use for it. You go to the rainforest, you feel great. It's because your body is syncing to this environment. Now, imagine standing next to an apartment that's radiated with a bunch of Wi-Fi and 5G and microwaves and all this kind of stuff. Our bodies are naturally going to adapt to that environment. And that's what's making so many of us have health issues living in this environment, this field that we're in. Also, if you're in any kind of a workplace that's a toxic workplace mentally or physically or in a relationship, you're going to adapt to that environment. So when you're talking to someone who's very draining in their energy, you feel drained because you're syncing fields, right? So it's the same thing. So we're providing a field that is totally coherent to the human body. It is the most optimal state for the body to be in. So when you're in this field, the cells in your body, the trillions of cells that you have, start charging up to 70 to 90 millivolts. And that is the optimal state for cellular health. Now, when you have more energy going through your cells, doesn't matter what ailment you could have anything. We have a spectrum of millions of issues people can have, but as you have increased cellular energy, your cells are going to optimize more. And also this puts you into a parasympathetic state because of the Schumann resonance. We're using 7.83 hertz. So the body goes from a fight or flight into the parasympathetic. And the body can only heal in a rested state. If you're constantly bombarded by stimulus, that's what the float tank is all about too, is removing all the stimulus so your body can finally relax. Your nervous system can get a reset, where in this world with cell phones and all these messages, notifications that we're getting constantly, how the fuck do we expect our bodies to totally relax? And that's why so many of us are overstimulated. Right? Yeah. And that's why kids, when they're in front of the iPad all the time, they're overstimulated. It never was like this prior to this timeline that we're in. So essentially, we're unplugging you from the matrix. Your body gets into go to the parasympathetic. Your cells are getting charged. Now, when your body goes into that 70 to 90 millivolts, Body goes into homeostasis, and the body intelligently knows how to repair itself. That's the key differentiator. We believe that the body has everything it needs to heal. It's just constantly, if we're fighting stimulation, we are in the sympathetic state. If we're removing toxins constantly, imagine your liver and your kidneys getting all these toxins that it has to filter through 1,000 or even just like 20 screens open on your computer. How is it going to run optimally when there's all these processes and operations going on? We need to shut all that stuff down in the body. Same thing with technology. It's an amazing technology. It's been around for 30 years. There's over 2,000 pages of documented research on it. There's over 400 centers that have opened up in the last 2 years. So if this is like bullshit, it's not working, like why are tens of thousands of people seeing amazing results? And, in the time that we've been open, in a year, I literally talk to people on the phone crying every single day, telling me about their symptoms and how they're on their last resort. They have nothing else that they can try. They're coming to me because somebody told them about what we're doing. We're only providing an environment that the body can heal itself. And we promise to heal, treat, cure, prevent anything. But when your body goes into this environment, it can heal itself. And we're very confident that this technology is providing that field, because otherwise we wouldn't have thousands and thousands of testimonials. And this spans all different types of ailments. Even if worst case scenario, it's just the mind doing it. It just shows how powerful the mind is, that it can heal your body, right? So it's very powerful. And what I love about it is there's no contraindications. It will not hurt you. And that's everything that we do here at Home Life. The number one thing, the Hippocratic oath that doctors take, but sometimes they don't really follow, is that do no harm. Right? We never put anyone in an environment that is going to harm them. We only have things that can help them. And we don't say this is a cure-all. We always say do it in conjunction with whatever else you're doing, because there's so many amazing holistic modalities, but also allopathic medicine. There is a time and a place for it. And we'll get into that. I want to hear about your journey on the podcast we do after this. But there's a totality of health, and allopathic medicine is one small little spectrum on that entire scale. So the mind, the body, the spirit, there's so many aspects to healing. And I just feel so blessed that, we've had hundreds, if not thousands of people, obviously so far in the year that we've been open, and every single one that is putting in the time and spending the hours in there, charging their cells, they are seeing benefits to what they're experiencing. So it doesn't even surprise me anymore to hear testimonials, which I am so grateful for people sharing that with me. And I am so happy that it's working in their life, but it doesn't surprise me anymore when I hear, like I was in there for 20 hours and all of a sudden my elbow pain from nerve damage is not there anymore. It's like, okay, that's amazing. And I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for articulating that as well as you did and really painting the full picture, because I am somebody who, sometimes too much information, I get overloaded and then I can't remember everything that was said and people are asking me questions and I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I think people need to just get in there and experience it for themselves. And that's what I typically say. For me, it feels like such divine timing that this came to your space with everything that has happened to my health the last year. I remember seeing it and, you talking about it, but I was also like in and out of paying attention to what was happening on social media. But I remember reaching out to you and being like, I don't know exactly what this is. I'm seeing you post about it. I'm really excited. I can't wait to get in there. You don't even need to tell me how it works. Like, I do remember asking, like, could this do any harm? Because I'm going through certain treatments right now. And I remember you saying, like, it can do no harm. So, okay, it's only going to help me. I remember the first session I did, so I was kind of like doe-eyed, like didn't really allow myself to fully shut down and relax. But I was like, okay, this feels really good. I like followed the detox bath, the protocol that you said. And I slept so deeply that night that I was just like, if nothing else, because my sleep was so broken because I was a nervous wreck, like that is also a time when your body heals. But I continued to feel good. And so I just continued to go. And then I would fall into that deep sleep that you're talking about and just wake up and be like, oh my God, that was the best nap of my life. So, and then I had ups and downs with a lot of autoimmune flares. And so at the height of that, more recently, the last few months, I got out of the hospital and my first thought was, as soon as I'm able to get myself there, I need to go to the Energy Enhancement System. And within 30 minutes of leaving, I remember texting you like, I feel so much better. Of course, it wasn't like an immediate 4 hours later, I feel like healed again. My body was taking its time, but to be able to put myself into that environment to allow my body to do the work to repair feels so good. And I make a point to go every week now. And I feel like I need to spend like an entire month there or something, but it just feels so good. So it is truly something that people need to experience for themselves, because you can hear these stories, and some people are believers. Some people just say, okay, yeah, I'm willing to try anything. Unfortunately, I think with diagnoses like mine, it's if you're choosing to go the conventional route, you just take all that on, not even realizing how that's burdening your. Hey friend, if you love to cook in the kitchen and you're super mindful of ingredients in your condiments, I need you to try the Primal Kitchen brand. I am so obsessed with it. I have been a huge fan of their products for years because they are made with avocado oil and pure, simple ingredients. They really get back to basics when it comes to quality, and it's one of the few brands that I trust when I'm buying prepackaged foods. I'm obsessed with their buffalo wing sauce. I use it for wings. I use it for chicken marinade. I use it for salad dressings, for dips, for sandwiches, you name it. But I'm also just so in love with the variety that they have in their dressings, their marinades, their mayos, and now they have these dipping sauces that are like out of this world. So if you are mindful of the ingredients in your kitchen, I highly encourage you to check them out. Like I said, they're made with avocado oil, which is so important. And when you're doing a keto diet like me, it's really optimal that you have high quality fats. So check out their brand. If you are new to the brand, you can get 10% off your first order using code JamieFWD at checkout. That's JAMIEFWD for 10% off your first order at checkout. I hope you enjoy. Let me know how you like it. I know you're going to love it. System, and then maybe it's not until you're at a point where you're so sick that you're truly willing to try anything else. So I'm grateful to have access to the Energy Enhancement System and access to everything that you offer at Om Life, because it really has been complementing and supporting my healing in a way that I appreciate and that I know is making a difference. So thank you for explaining that, allowing people to understand, because I'm like, oh, you just got to go there. It's great for inflammation. It's great for what you said about your cells vibrating at certain frequencies. I was able to articulate that to people. But I'm like, just get your butt in there. Like, you won't regret it. Go try it at the very least. Because
at the very least, you got nothing to lose.
Yeah, but like, even if you're not dealing with a chronic illness, everybody in this area, in the greater New York City area, is walking around like a stress ball and they don't even realize it. So just taking time to actually rest and go sit in that system for an hour or two can do wonders for everybody.
Yeah, I always describe it as like you're in there for 2 hours. We always recommend 2 hours the first time. We have a great intro package for people to try it. But it's like you're being engulfed in love for 2 hours. And like the deepest hug that you can imagine. And we have blankets and eye masks and everything like that for you to be in, this environment of just like, you don't even need to see the screens. It's optional. Like it doesn't matter. So one thing I'll just mention about the screen. So like the screens with all the different colors and everything is specifically doing the crazy movements, fast and slow and all this, based on the Fibonacci sequence. So as your body would absorb light by the sun, this is the light coming off these screens, spiraled in that Fibonacci, goes through your skin, just as you absorb the sunlight, and then it's actually penetrating through the Fibonacci spiral into your DNA. So that's the entire reason why it's coming in the Fibonacci sequence, because it's compatible. So it's like spiraling into your DNA. So there's actually studies on how it repairs your DNA to its original state. Yeah, I mean, it's wild. And like, I don't really go too deep into into the deep waters, but the technology, you can read about all this stuff. But at the very least, you'll sleep very good. You'll feel incredibly energized. You'll feel happy. It's impossible to feel anything negative or sad inside this field, and see what it does for you. I encourage everybody to try it out. And not just because I have a center. I tell people who I meet on vacation, I'm like, hey, there's a center near you. You should go to one, because it's so life-changing. And if you have anyone in your family that's struggling with any kind of degenerative diseases or health challenges, this is something you can incorporate in addition to everything else you're doing. See, the thing is, people think if a doctor tells me to do something and they're not very holistic minded, this is the only thing I can do. That's not the case. We have to take stock and, autonomy of our own decision making. Yes, you can do that, but there's also many other things you can do simultaneously. So we're not living in an either or world. We're living in an and world. And the minute you start taking responsibility for your own empowerment and making decisions, because doctors, they'll meet you for 5 minutes and tell you, okay, start taking this drug or go to this treatment, go to this doctor.
Right. And also, like,
who you
their
are.
training is so
You've been
specific.
with yourself. Yeah.
I'm sure if I asked my oncologist or my surgeon, oh, I'm going to sit in this energy enhancement system, they'd be like, okay, yeah, woo woo. Like, no, it's not going to work. They just don't know. I've realized you can't fault a system for the limited training and specialized training that these doctors have done.
Yes.
I'm not discrediting them, but you can't expect them to know anything about nutrition, mindset, about stress release, about body work. Some of them might, some of them might be open-minded in their own life to learning about that, or they've seen patients who have had relief from alternative therapies. But yeah, like most of the time, they're not going to have insights on it. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, to your point. Take ownership of your healing process, because I think when you can also do that, you're putting yourself in the driver's seat. So you're navigating where you want that path to go instead of the doctor. It's like, okay, well, here's the medication. See you later. Good luck. You might have side effects. We have a prescription for that. And that's what I've experienced.
Actually, just a small example, like, okay, so like the benefits of allopathic medicine, when I tore my shoulder in jiu-jitsu back in 2009, I went to an orthopedic surgeon and he did an amazing surgery, and my shoulder is like 99% healed now. And I could only do that through allopathic means, right? There wasn't stem cells or anything regenerative going on back then. But then he also told me, oh, here, take this. I'm going to write you a prescription for Percocets. After surgery, you're going to be in a lot of pain. And I'm like, I'm hearing a lot of things that people are taking pain medicine and they're getting addicted. He's like, oh, no, we have lots of medications to get you off that if that happens. So I was like, okay. And then I took it the first day and I felt so bloated and ill and constipated. And I'd rather deal with the pain than take these things continually. So no fault to doctors. They know their slivel of very specialized medicine, which is incredibly important. My parents, both doctors, my mom's still practicing as a pediatrician, and I have so much respect for them. But again, they were only trained in a certain frequency, in a certain way of doing medicine. And I talked to her about nutrition, and I'm helping her understand a lot more about the power of food and light and the power of recovery modalities. And she's all on board, but she never learned these things. So again, there's so much to learn about health, and we have to look at the body in a holistic way. You're not just going to treat. You have to understand everything functions in an environment. If you have an invasive species in a pond, it's going to affect the entire environment. What you can to bring that pond back in balance, whether it's the pH or it's removing the invasive species. But we don't look at that in terms of health. And something that we talk about a lot is we spend so much money in this country on allopathic medicine, healthcare, insurance, and we get such little for it in terms of if you look at our overall health and quality of life. And I'm just super excited for so many things coming up, but especially really looking into how toxic food can be and removing a lot of pesticides and herbicides and GMOs and all this kind of things. And I think the next administration is really focused on that with RFK Jr.'s lead. And hopefully that leads to more access to holistic stuff. I have a lot of people coming to us that, are tapped out on their insurance and spending so much money. And then they're like, oh, do you guys accept insurance? And it breaks my heart to tell them, no, we don't, because the insurance company doesn't cover it. And we try to make things as affordable as possible, considering we're in a downtown city and we have very high expenses and everyone's paying cash for their services. But it really should be the opposite. It should be available to people, and you should be able to use your FSA, HSA, which they do. But having insurance cover this, and it's only a net to the whole ecosystem, because we're incentivizing insurance companies and doctors for making people healthier versus making people sick and having more money to be spent on healthcare. It's like problem, reaction, solution is like there's this huge problem that's created through the mechanisms of the system. And now they're incentivized to prescribe more and get more money, get more people sick. And so the pharmaceutical companies and the chemical companies and the food companies are all aligned, and they're also owned by one another. It's like, whether it's intentional or whether it's for money, whatever is going on, it's a system that's creating more and more sick people. And the earlier you start tampering with people's immunity, kids and everything, it's a lifelong customer. You can keep people alive with all these medicines, but are they having a quality of life? So there's a lot to look. And I think once people start looking under the cover of what's really going on, and there's so many people that are awake to us in our sphere, but I think the general public is going to learn a lot in the next few months and years about how rotten things can be. And it's not like there's a lot of bad people. I think there's a few bad people, bad actors, bad corporations, knowing that they're doing bad things to humanity just to make money. But I think once we start understanding, awareness is the first step in enlightenment. You have to understand what's going on so that you can take the steps now to start healing yourself and clearing your body of all the crap and the pesticides and the plastics and everything that we can't avoid just living in this society, right?
Yes.
Sorry, that was my TED talk. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Listen, you know how I feel about these things, and I'm living it right now. I was grateful to and humbled and so thankful for all of the support. And I constantly sing the praises of you and every single friend in this area who has a wellness business I have access to and can utilize and support your services because it's supporting me. I took a big step back from work and to truly focus on my health. And I'm so grateful for Michelle for understanding that and like allowing that for me. But it was really hard because so many of these things that I've been wanting to tap into are not covered by insurance. So I had to really like put my ego aside, put my pride aside, and be willing to be vulnerable and open up the doors to questions of sharing my story and talking about things before I was even ready when I allowed my family to set up a GoFundMe for me. But I could not be more thankful for that because that has allowed me to take a big burden of stress off my shoulders at a time where my health is already feeling so stressful. So it allowed me to prioritize these things. But this is why you and I are having these conversations, and all the conversations I hope to have in this platform is just to spread awareness of what is possible for healing. And, you know, in hopes that it does get better, that our country gets, you know, more awareness to all of these tools that are available. I think there's people like us who have been doing the work for so long and who understand the value of it. And it hasn't always been exposed to, you know, the average human being because we're so trained in a lens of like conventional medicine, problem solution. I do hope that becomes more of the proactive approach to healing our bodies, our problems, food system, all of that. I look forward to that as well. And I think we really need it. So I feel like there's this big shift coming, but you know, all the more reason to talk and spread the awareness about these things. It's so important. And it's not something people realize that they need until you are in a situation where your health is in a critical condition and you've tried all these things and they're not working and you're getting worse. And then you're willing to do anything and everything. And that's when I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of people open up their minds to what else is possible outside of the system. So yeah, there was my mini TED talk, but you know, we're on the same page. So I hope we get better, all of us.
Total alignment with that. Everything that you said. I just want to commend you for the courage that you have to share your story in an open public setting and going through all the vulnerabilities that you're facing. And I think there's so much power to that message. And I think we're living in an age where the people that are really living so much more authentically, they're utilizing the power of their throat chakra and not holding back and not being afraid to speak their truth. And you know, just looking at the people in our community, we have an amazing wellness community in Jersey City and beyond, but like everybody loves you, Jamie. Like you're just such a wonderful human being and such a kind soul. The first time I met you, I felt like she's like a sister to me. Like she's just so funny and we always laughed and had a great time, had great conversations. And that's why people want to support you. And I just wanted to share that because you're so courageous and everybody's in your corner.
Thank you. I'd like to say that the people who express similar sentiments to me, I think you would all be doing, I know like you would be that person too. I think the more you share and release and the more you can be vulnerable and open to receiving love and receiving support, which maybe wasn't something I was necessarily comfortable doing in the past. Like my mind, my whole life, everything has just been like cracked open in many ways, like similar but different to your experience with, you know, plant medicine. And I actually, you know, I'm curious about plant medicine. It's something that I'm like wanting to think more about in the new year because I have heard so many great stories about the healing. I feel called to share the story. I don't know why. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, I'm putting on my mask to just kind of like shield it. I don't always feel like I'm talking about myself, but I'm visualizing, just as you have always said to me from the very beginning, it's like visualize yourself healed. That's what I'm doing. I'm feeling that even with the setbacks. The setbacks are hard, but continuing to move forward and continuing to share, I think it's important. As I always say, I hope somebody's learning from this conversation, but I really, truly believe that is why I felt compelled to start this podcast, is to help others. So, and I know that you're in the business, of course, of serving. So you get it.
And I truly believe this is part of the healing process for you.
Yeah.
Sharing that
totally
story.
Agree.
opening
Totally
up your
agree.
throat
All the
chakra,
layers are just
releasing.
peeling off. I mean, I had so many questions set up for you that I just feel like this conversation, which I would much rather do when people are comfortable, is just like let it organically shift. I know you're big on self-development and mindset work, and clearly telling your story of how Om Life came to life and trusting yourself to step into that. Tell me about that work that you've done, and who maybe specifically has made the biggest impact on you. Speaking of wanting to help others, if you could give advice to someone who's struggling to better themselves but doesn't know where to begin, maybe let's let that lens of mindset work kind of guide this question.
For sure. So let me tell you where I am today, right? After all
Perfect.
these years of self-development. So I want people to start with the end in mind and then
Mm-hmm.
reverse and create a course going forward. So the first thing I want everybody to understand is make the declaration that you are the star of the show. And you can go and learn from all these gurus, but you are the main character, right? They're just an aspect to it. So not putting too much faith or stock or praise on any particular person. Everything is created already under the sun. So a lot of these self-development gurus, meditation people, they're taking knowledge that they've learned from somebody else, right? And synthesizing it into a way to communicate it to others. If you believe in, a divine creator, that you have the ability to do all of that and more, you're a part of this matrix. So you am I am you, everybody is connected. So not idolizing somebody or putting somebody in a pedestal. That's basically the first thing I want to say. And that you have the ability to heal yourself, and the story you create about your healing and your timeline. In 10 years, I'll have this dream house, and you're creating this story. You're creating the fuel, the emotional charge to make that happen in 10 years. Like, why are you making that limitation? Why don't you do it in 2 years? Right. So everything that we think about is going to manifest. Everything that we feel is going to manifest. So what is stopping you from completely wiping the slate of all the little stories that we have in our mind, all the creations that we do? You can fool the world, but you can't fool yourself. You can't fool your soul. So the first thing to do is to really connect with who the fuck you are. Knowing thyself. That's the number one mission, right? And how do you get there? I think it took me a lifetime to kind of figure that stuff out, because, I grew up and what does it say? Remember who the fuck you are. I love it. Yeah.
I have these signs.
Truly. And then in order for you to start seeing that, you have to take responsibility for everything in your life. And I know that's hard for most people to hear. And, a lot of times we go through bad things in life, but I look at it from a soul perspective. I don't look at it from the 3D reality, because I know really shitty things happen to people. But I take the perspective, and like everything I share is just my perspective from my experience, my knowledge, my upbringing. I believe that we choose everything, and every challenge that comes to us, every deep pain is an opportunity for us to catapult from that and transmute it into something more powerful. And your example of, having a diagnosis and then transmuting that into sharing your story, that is powerful. There is so much power in that. And that's a part of that. So like every time I went through something really difficult, going back on it now, I realized, okay, everything I needed to become the man I am today, I had to go through those challenges. Because if you come into this world, and I think about this a lot with my baby boy, if we shelter him and don't let him experience any pain or any fear, how is he going to develop character? Not to inflict any challenges for him, but understanding that every soul comes in here to learn the lessons that they need to learn. And he has a path, right? We have a path that I would love for him to go through. But just as I went through all the hardships in my life, losing my dad at a very young age and having to navigate manhood, having 2 sisters and a mom to emotionally support, and not having a lot of belief in myself, if we look at ourselves and realize that we're this child that maybe didn't feel loved or feel like we were enough, and talk to that child version of ourselves and give them so much love. Because again, we could go into so many freaking tangents on here, but
5 hours on this podcast.
I think from everything I've experienced through psychedelics and, all the experiences and adventures I've gone through in life, I think we're living in multiple timelines all at once. And the childhood version of ourselves is living on a timeline. This current version of ourselves, our future versions of ourselves living on this timeline. So you can go back and you can hop timelines and you can heal at any moment. It's like that movie Interstellar when they're in that matrix of mind and he's able to access. Did you see that movie?
No, I'll have to watch it.
No, okay. Check it out. It's amazing. So yeah, he was able to access different parts of his world and his life and going back to the childhood version of his daughter and talking to her in the present moment and healing things. Depends on what angle you look at your life from. That's kind of like the current present reality. So I'm in communication with my 4-year-old self and my 5-year-old self, and my 15-year-old self, the kid who experienced a lot of pain and not feeling enough, scared to talk to girls. So healing all these elements to my being, and just knowing, just knowing that, and that you have everything you need. You have all the tools, and there's a lot of amazing teachers out there, and take lessons from whoever you deem is like worthy of your time and energy and incorporate it immediately. Like don't wait, don't hesitate. I went through a long period in my life where I tried to accumulate all the knowledge, but I didn't take action, right? That was my lesson. At some point, we're going to continue learning the same lessons and going through the same experiences, whether it's relationship after relationship, teaching you the same lesson until we start taking different actions. And then once we get it, you're never going to repeat that same lesson again.
I explain it to people, my cousin and I talk about this sometimes just to relate it. It's like you're on this spiritual ladder and everyone's on different rungs of the ladder. No two people are like at the same exact place at the same exact time. As you learn what you need to learn, you move up a step on the ladder and you grow and evolve. What I'm getting from you, the biggest themes is taking action, because you can have all the thoughts and all the plans in the world in your mind. And I know I've lived that way for a long time, just running on the hamster wheel until you take that step. You don't change, you don't evolve, you stay the same, you stay stuck. And if there's that dream inside of you, like you had to fulfill this purpose, you're going to continuously feel that like knocking at the door and then kind of, wearing down your confidence. But I think the other thing is openness and curiosity from everything we've talked about in this conversation, having that vulnerability to be open to allowing things to come into your path and process them and choose what makes sense for you.
Living like through the eyes of a child. That's my like daily mantra, is seeing the beauty in everything and not taking anything. So I was journaling when I was on a trip to Peru, and it was basically what came to me: be as light as a feather, but also carrying the creational life force energy of the universe. So it's the whole spectrum of everything that there is, and just living in there. And maybe one day you're on the right side of the spectrum, maybe one day you're on the left side of the spectrum, but just fully embracing who you are. But the last thing I'll share on this is just question your thoughts and observe them and see if they're empowering you or if they're disempowering you. What is the language? What are the conversations you're having with yourself? Am I not good enough? That won't work. I'm not happy at this job. I'm not happy in this relationship. Question it, journal on it, write about it, and really like spend time with it. Because a lot of times we have these subconscious underlying like unhappiness in life, but we don't really fully explore the emotional side of it. And I think, psychedelics obviously is one angle to really see the root cause of these things. And then the other thing is to really observe what you're listening to. Are you watching the news before bed every day? Are you listening to the murder mystery podcasts? Are you just like listening to things that just are wasting your time? And look at your time as it's very valuable, and nothing that is not in alignment with what your true purpose is has access to enter into that. So if you think yourself is bulletproof, like I don't want any bullshit in my life, that's a tough thing, but cut the people that are creating bullshit in your life. Find people that are supportive of your journey. Sometimes you have to reevaluate your whole self. Like, I love my friends from high school and college, and then even the people in my adulthood that I became friends with. But now I'm living in full alignment where everyone in my life is on the same kind of thinking level as me or heart level as me. So I choose to spend time with them. And I still love the people in my life, my family and everything. I see them. I am present with them. I realize the soul family is the one that you choose. So the people around you, the thoughts that you're listening to, any music that you're listening to, it's all vying for your attention, including your own negative thoughts or positive thoughts. So just being aware.
You just unloaded so much there. Yes, to all of it.
Bang, bang, bang.
No, it's all great advice. I was talking to Kate, your wife. I ran into her maybe a month ago at Home Life. We were talking about Joe Dispenza, which I know the two of you have gone on a few retreats, and I would love to do that in the future. That's like a something I hope to accomplish in 2025. I'm like putting it out there. But we were talking about.
Let's change that language. Let's say I'm going to
I am
get there in
going.
2025.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm going to see Joe Dispenza in 2025, and hopefully we can go together. That would be so lovely. Caitlin O'Toole has been coming up so much in my feed. I had listened to a podcast. This is now the third time I'm talking about her. Hopefully I can bring her on someday. But she talked about
we
that.
We actually sat next to her in a Dispenza event, Kate and I. We met her.
Kate was telling me, that you had made friends. And so I reached out to her, and she said something in an interview similar to what you're saying. It's really paying attention to what you're consuming. So that is why I have that sign all over my house. I started muting people on social media, and it's like, no offense to anyone, but really your time, we all have the same amount of time in a day. And we are so subconsciously letting it pass by when you're sitting there scrolling on Instagram or watching the news or whatever it is that you're doing. We're all like robots now. We don't even know what's happening in the world unless you wake up and truly pay attention. I was watching this show on Netflix that I just got sucked into that was so depressing. And it got to the point where someone had a cancer diagnosis. Someone else had PTSD from war. And there's just all these toxic things happening. And I found myself after watching feeling so terrible and depressed. And I was like, whoa, this is what she's talking about. So, you have to pay attention to that. I think that's such a sound piece of advice, and the questions that are running through your mind constantly. So
yeah. Everything that we consume is being stored in the data set in your mind. So it's taking up operational space, which is very crazy to think about. When people go to hypnosis, regression, if they witness an accident and they regress, they could literally tell you line for line everything that happens, word for word, including license plates, all that. So imagine the power of your mind. We're consuming all that stuff. It's just junk, right? It's data that doesn't matter. So the stuff that we want to consciously consume, imagine how we can use that same power of the mind towards things that we want to attract or things that we want to do, how we want to help people and live consciously and upgrade our spirituality and improve our health. We have these lives, they're short, if we're lucky, 100 years. What do you want to do in that time that you're here, right? It would now be a good time to start making those changes, to start living more on purpose. Luckily, I came to that in my early 20s, and it took me still a long path to figure things out, but I don't want to waste my fucking time, right?
Yeah.
44 in a couple of weeks, and I don't have time to watch all this bullshit on TV and, take up my mental space and my energy.
Yes. Well, what a beautiful conversation. Speaking of the biohack piece, and I see you utilizing the systems, all the different modalities at Om, and now not only are you a business owner, a husband, now you've got your beautiful baby Zen. There's a lot of things that you're juggling in any given day. So what is one thing that you do for yourself and for your health that is a non-negotiable?
So, I, as a biohacker and somebody who has access to the equipment, I have quite a few things that I do, but let's just keep it simple. For consciously eating good foods, live foods that are here to fuel us, sunlight or red light, making sure we're getting enough of that, breathing, taking a little bit of time to meditate, a little quiet space. If you don't want to meditate, listen to some really relaxing music without lyrics, or something that brings you happiness. We don't take the time in the day to really just unplug, right? So I think that's super important because that'll help with the nervous system. For me, I'm consciously choosing to be in a controlled state of stress. So either the infrared saunas, which are great for detoxification, or cold plunges or cold showers, especially in the wintertime. Turn water on, it's freezing, jump in there. The more you put yourself in these controlled stress environments, the more you'll feel accomplished, right? So it gives you amazing boost of adrenaline and serotonin and this sense of accomplishment after you go into a deep heat or deep cold. Obviously check with doctors, make sure everything's okay before you enter those kind of realms.
Absolutely.
But for me, putting myself through a really hard workout, afterwards, I feel great. I feel accomplished. I do that in the morning, 5:15 in the morning. I just accomplished the hardest thing I'm going to do today. Let's have some fun the rest of the day and see what we can create. Yeah. So it's going from an empowered state, accomplish something hard, and then make life a game, right? If you can gamify life, it becomes really magical. And start asking yourself the question, can I do more? Or what can I create today? What magic am I going to attract in my life today? when you start expecting these things, the synchronicities are just flooding towards me. The magic in my life is flooding towards me. It starts happening. I keep a synchronicity journal as well. So anytime I'm thinking of someone and they call me or something magical happens, I have an incredible conversation and we're like so simpatico, I'll write it down. So this way, if I ever doubt that the universe is conspiring to work in my favor, I just look at the synchronicity journal. So little hacks like that. My kid is the most amazing, aspect of my life. My wife, my dog, like being in gratitude. Really, that's the ultimate biohack. You can do all the things, you can do all the biohacks, you can eat all the clean foods, but if you have a shitty mindset, you're not going to be healthy. Like you're going to attract disease. So I think it all comes down to your inner state that creates your outer state.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. You're on the Forward Think Tank. So what keeps you moving forward in life?
So much. I am incredibly grateful for this life, for this opportunity to be me. And it took me a long time to get there. I am just so grateful for everything that I've created, everything I'm going to create, all the hardships. My son, obviously, and my wife and my family brings me forward in every day. And also my purpose. My purpose is never going to change. Adding light to the world, every conversation that I have, everything that I do, every feeling, every emotion, just squeezing every last drop of that lemon into lemon juice that I can. And always maintaining a positive mindset. I feel like I lived 1,000 lifetimes in just 44 years. And I'm so excited about every single day, just waking up with so much joy, happiness, and gratitude.
Thank you. I mean, speaking of gratitude, I'm just so grateful for your time and for this conversation. And I want to say, you had mentioned when certain people have certain heavy energies, which I experienced a lot of that yesterday, and it was nobody's fault. I was having a really heavy day yesterday. Technology wise, it weren't working. And I was, frustrated from the very second I woke up, but, made time to decompress, get out, go for a walk, do all the things. Looked at Nick last night and I was like, oh my gosh, like Anand and we're doing back-to-back episodes. Like I need to have a clear head for this, but I think there's something to be said for the people that you do allow in your life and the right energy, because from the moment that we hopped on, everything just kind of settled down. Of course, you and I are friends, but we're having this wonderful conversation. And I think people will get so much out of that. So it's just a testament to choosing who you allow into your space, because I'm like, okay, now I can talk for hours. No problem. We're going to hop onto your podcast and it's going to be great. Like, I don't feel that draining. And I wasn't expecting that. But of course I was in my head like, okay, you got to make sure you're on, because I'm trying to manage my energy these days. It's necessary. So thank you for creating a beautiful energy field all around you and sharing that with me and everyone who's listening. Thank you so much.
I love you, my friend. And I'm so grateful to have this conversation. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, my honor. For everyone tuning in, we will be sure to drop a link to Om Life if you're in the area and you're able to check out that energy enhancement system or anything else that he has to offer. I also want to be sure to include the link for energy systems all around the country or maybe the world for people who are interested in that technology and can access it, whether you're here locally or you're in another part of the country or the world. We would love to give you access and awareness of where those places are. Thank you again, Anand. I love you. And I can't wait to share this episode.
Sounds good. And check out the Limitless One podcast, Anand.life. Right. And my next guest is going to be Jamie Ford Maza.
Yes. So I will link all of that information below. And, thank you again for being here.
Thank you.